member of the California Arts Council and Beverly Hills Arts Commission, is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories can be read in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to California Apparel News. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to Joan Quinn, Etc. We have a really interesting show today because we were able to talk to Marc Jacobs, the fashion designer who lives in New York. Recently, we were at iMagnon's Beverly Hills for a charity fashion show, and this is what we saw, the Perry Ellis Show by Marc Jacobs. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and I'm at iMagnon's Beverly Hills with Marc Jacobs, the designer for Perry Ellis. Hi, Marc.
Hello, Joan.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
I know you love LA, and
Love
I know you were here last night for a really great show.
Yes.
For the benefit of AmFAR.
Right. It was a great show. It was wonderful to do it with AmFAR and with Magnons, and of course, LA Style, everyone sort of worked together on it, and I think it was very successful. I mean, the turnout was wonderful. The show had a lot of energy. The girls all donated their time. It was really terrific.
It was great.
Fun.
How long have you been designing for Perry Ellis?
I've been designing for Perry Ellis for just over 3 years now.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, it seems from the time I've known you, Perry Ellis has kind of run like a thread through your life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I guess I met Perry Ellis when I was very young, before I started going to college. I was, I guess, about 16 or so, and I asked him what I should do. You know, I wanted to be a designer, and he recommended going to Parsons.
How did you run into him? How did you ask him?
He lived in the neighborhood. We lived in the same neighborhood, and I used to see him around. I actually ran into him in a store in New York, but I did see him in the neighborhood. We both lived on the Upper West Side, and I'm not shy, so I just went right up and asked him. And he recommended Parsons, and then later, when I was attending Parsons, he was my critic, and I won his award as a student.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because Parsons Design School
is Otis.
Here it's Otis, but it brings in designers to work with the design students.
That's
so
right.
he happened to be your critic?
He happened to be my critic. No, it just happened.
It just happened
Faded.
again, exactly.
Faded.
And then?
I received the Perry Ellis award for the new designer from the CFDA. So that was again another Perry Ellis sort of situation.
The Council of Fashion Designers of America.
Which is a very
prestigious. It was a very prestigious award.
Yes.
You won the Golden Thimble at
in Parsons, and then the Perry Ellis CFDA award much later on, you know, when I started doing my own line. And then I was contacted.
Wait, you started your own line,
yeah.
And it said Marc Jacobs.
Right, it was just my line, and it was very small, and I did it for a few years.
Right out of school?
Right out of school.
So you were really lucky to have your name on something, or you were really good?
No, I mean, I think luck has something to do with it, but I worked very hard, and I just felt like I could do it somehow, I don't know. And I don't know if I would behave the same way today that I did then, but I just felt like, you know, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out, and on to the next. And I think I still have that attitude a little bit, you know. I would love, of course, for things to be terrific always, but life doesn't work that way. So, you know, you do it and you get on to the next thing, that's all. It's just always about the present, so.
So what happened then? You had your name on a line, and Perry Ellis passed away. Is that what happened?
Yeah, Perry Ellis passed away, and his assistants, or his design assistants, took over and we're doing the collection, the Perry Ellis collection, for a couple of years. And then I was contacted by Robert McDonald, who was the president then of Perry Ellis International, and he asked me if I would be interested in doing the women's clothing. And I was very interested in doing it, and I went there, and I've been there since.
But you had to give up your name on a line. How did that feel?
It's fine. It doesn't, you know,
I think casual.
Well, I think that more people know who I am because I'm associated with Perry Ellis than they would know if I were on my own doing my little thing and just like struggling along. And I don't really think that fashion, I hope to young people, I hope to contemporary modern people, that fashion isn't about the name on the label. Fashion is about loving a dress because it makes you feel sexy, or loving a jacket because it makes you look handsome, or loving a color because it's warm or cool or whatever. I really think that the idea of buying something because of the label or the name on the label is old-fashioned. So.
Oh, that's great. So you just moved right into the right place, and you've been there for 3 years, and all of a sudden, or has it been a long process, that you've developed a love affair with Los Angeles?
I think it's not been a long process, but I guess it was only in the past 2 years that I started coming out to LA, like, you know, at all. And I just love it out here so much, and I have such a good time when I come, and I don't know, it's a very fantastic place for me.
What do you do? What's a typical day in Los Angeles for you?
Well, I mean, usually I'm here for some work or something that's work-related, but I have friends who live here, and I guess I've done everything from going to the LA County Museum and going to various restaurants for lunch and dinner, and just driving around some of the neighborhoods, going to the park or up in Malibu, or
so you've driven from one
Venice
end to
or
the
Santa
other.
Monica. Yeah, I've seen a lot.
Because I know that the lines or the clothes that you did for this season and probably for next season and last season have a great Los Angeles influence.
Yes. The influence is more, I mean, for me, there are specific, you know, examples that were inspired by a certain situation in LA, very specific ones. And then there are others that it's more the irreverence and the attitude and the style that I think people in LA have that makes them look so much different from people, for instance, on the East Coast or in Chicago, or, you know.
We don't see it.
Well, because you live it. But we see it because we don't, and we're always protected and bundled up as New Yorkers. You know, we're sort of like trying to get through the streets very quickly by foot, and you're in cars, so you can have bareness, and you can have, you know, the climate allows, the cars allow, the difference of lifestyle, the space allows people to look differently.
Well, we don't see it, but I know when you talk about driving from Malibu to East LA or to Venice or all over the city, Mayor Bradley obviously was very aware of it because he named Perry Ellis Day.
Right.
So the city knows you're here.
Yes.
And we're glad.
Well, some of the city does
Some
anyway.
of it does. Let's talk about a few of the influences that were in the show. So the Hollywood, obviously.
Right. There was, you know, again, when I come to LA, to me, I see remnants of what I imagine 30s and 40s Hollywood are. I mean, the Beverly Hills Hotel to me somehow is very Hollywood, you know. There's
And the pool. So
and
you
the
did your pool designs.
and the palm fronds, that print. It just reminds me of that period of time. There's still a lot of, to me, there's still a lot of stuff that I see that looks very like what I imagine 40s Hollywood was, and whether it was or wasn't, doesn't matter, whether it's just a typeface on the front of a building or something.
I see.
And then there's the fantasy of all the studios and, I don't know, Grauman's Theater and all the touristy things that you all take for granted because they're here and they're sort of like decrepit or whatever, or maybe they're not, but I find, you know, I just find fantasy in all of it. So.
What about East LA?
East LA, again, it's just, it was more the fantasy of what? Of the large Mexican community and low riders. I didn't actually see low riders wearing black leather jeans with white ruffled tuxedo shirts or bandana skirts with white shirts.
Yeah.
I didn't see them, but the idea of the fact that there is such a large Mexican community, then I started looking at these sort of folkish fabrics, and like I said, LA above all is about this irreverence, and it's sort of anything goes, and it's sort of fake and real, and it's all those things sort of mixed together, and there's no evening, there's no day, there's no winter, there's no summer. It's just it.
We just live like that. And also the cowboy influence. That was a great...
well, that again,
it's West.
It's the irreverence of all the girls that I see with cowboy boots and evening dresses or cowboy boots with shorts. You walk along Melrose and you see all these girls, they're wearing cowboy boots with anything. It doesn't matter if it goes or not. It goes.
Let's see the boot that you did design.
I mean, these are the Beverly Hills boots for like poolside, I guess. You know, these pink, green and white stripes, very LA, don't you think?
Yeah, they're great. Let's take a break and see what some of the influences are.
Okay.
Those look really great. Do you actually design when you're in LA, or do you wait to go back to New York to do the designs?
I don't know. I mean, design, it's not like, designing isn't like a homework assignment where you have to complete it, you know, you do it between this hour and that hour. I mean, if I woke up last night and I thought of something that I wanted to do, I would jot it down. And if I'm home on a Saturday, I would sketch all day anyway, but it just sort of comes. You can't really sit down and say, okay, well, I'm going to go to LA and design from 3 to 5 and then go out to dinner from 5 to 7.
So.
It doesn't work that way. It's a spontaneous thing. And I think that's what worked for me a lot in terms of this collection, because I would see a fabric and I'd say, okay, I like this today, and I would see, you know, I'd want to make a jacket, and then the next day I'd want to make a prairie skirt, and then the next day I'd want to do a beaded dress.
Be drawing?
You know, so it was just like every day I felt like doing something else, and it all, I guess, a lot of the ideas came from either, you know, being actually here and coming up with things, or seeing something like the idea of the, we did a Western dress with white piping, and I called it the rodeo dress.
It looked great.
But it's a, you know, it was a play on words, so you have Rodeo Drive, and it was part of the Beverly Hillbillies group. So, I mean, so we used, you know, I play with like the words and the clothes, and ultimately it just matters if you like the dress or not. You know, it doesn't matter what the inspiration is. It doesn't matter if it comes from LA, or if it comes from New York, or it comes from, you know, some fictional place in your mind. Ultimately, you're left with a dress or a skirt or a jacket or a shirt. And it's the combinations. I think it's the energy that you get from your inspiration that helps you to pull it all together and make it of one piece, you know.
Have you, talking about the inspiration, designed anything for the movies?
No, I mean, I've never designed anything. I've never done anything like designed by assignment, I don't think. You know, I've never designed uniforms or sets or anything like that. It would be interesting. I think I would enjoy working like in movies and stuff.
Are you a painter?
I draw, but I don't paint.
You don't paint, so it wouldn't be like a set thing in your mind, set design along with...
I'd like to do costume design for films, but I think that it would be difficult for me only because I'm not very good at staying pure. You know, I couldn't ever, I don't think I could ever do like a period thing because I don't like that. I like to sort of have bits and pieces of everything, so
But maybe that's a good trend for something, and maybe it doesn't have to be pure. We'll find you the right media.
I have to find the right movie, that's
right. But you also talked about, you know, it just kind of, fashion just came to you. Have you ever thought of branching out into some other career?
Not really. I'd like, you know, I enjoy what I do, and if I stop enjoying it, you know, if I just don't like doing this anymore, then I'll like figure out what I'm going to do next. And right now I still...
You don't have anything in mind?
I mean, I'm ready to, like, ready to just like retire completely because I have a show coming up, but this is the way I always feel when I have to.
At what age?
28.
Oh yeah, ready to retire. This man has gone to the top already.
I'm teasing.
Do you think there's too many fashion designers around?
No.
No?
No.
There is quite an abundance.
That's okay. There's too many. I mean, too many. There's not too many of anything. It's
what
okay.
other things do you design other than clothes?
I work on the shoes, and I work on the accessories. I work on a lot of the licensed products that Perry Ellis makes, the coats and furs and stuff like that. So I'm busy.
You're very busy. Do you have a scent?
We're developing one, I think. There was a Perry Ellis fragrance, but they discontinued it, and I think they're going to redo it, and that'll be probably in the next 2 years. But it's a long process to do a fragrance and to do the research and promotion and all that kind of stuff. But there's a men's fragrance in the company that we deal with for the fragrance. We're like developing it now.
When I was talking to Shirley Wilson, she said, "Don't worry about Marc. He can talk for hours on anything. Give him a subject and he'll talk for 15 minutes. She says, talk about bubbles." I went, "No, let's not talk about bubbles. Let's talk about the color blue. Let's see what Marc can say about the color blue."
The color blue. Gee, what should I say about the color blue? This is like a trick. This is like a test. Okay, so the color blue, I don't know.
Use a lot of blue in your, like, stripes. I saw this great
blue, like
blue.
the color blue. You don't want something cerebral. Well, I mean, you know, that's funny because blue actually to me isn't a very LA color. But I like blue and white. I always think it looks like spring. I always think it looks like warm weather. So, and I like the way that it, like navy and white looks kind of uniformy and stuff like that. You know,
it did on the runway too.
And I like that quality. But actually, blue to me is a very un-LA color. It's a very New York color.
So what
navy.
Blue? Yeah, navy.
And even light blue.
What?
Pink is a very LA color.
Well, I think we're both in pink. We're very LA.
Beverly Hills. White is a very LA color.
You're talking about blue and you've got into pink and white.
You?
Talk about food.
food. The food in LA is, I think, the best in the United States. Every time I come to LA, every meal I have is delicious. The food is so good. Everything tastes so fresh. I love going to the Hollywood Canteen. I love going to the Olive. I love going to the Ivy. I love the restaurants here so much. The food is incredible.
Do you cook at home? Do you know how to cook?
No.
Not at all.
I can burn toast.
You know how to eat.
I know how to eat. I know how to make reservations.
The spoiled kid.
Right.
What about Europe? Have you ever thought of going to Europe, taking the collection to Europe, which is quite a trend?
You know what? I think that's a trend in a way, but I think that if you want to do it, do it. It's not something that's important to me. I just got back from Europe. I was in Europe a few weeks ago. I went to Berlin and Barcelona, where I'd never been, and it was fun. I mean, it's funny to me because the more I travel, I see how different places are, but how much they're the same.
Did Barcelona remind you of LA?
No.
Well, I think like Gaudi and the Watchtowers that we have. Have you been out to the Watchtowers?
No, I've never.
A place for you to go.
It is.
But I just heard a lecture Robert Hughes gave on his book, Barcelona. And he does a slide lecture. And so much of the architecture looks like architecture and feels like it. So.
It's funny because it didn't remind me at all of Los Angeles. In fact, but I'm thinking of it in a very different way. I'm not thinking of it like in a visual sense necessarily. I mean, Barcelona is such a late night city, and people go out to dinner at midnight and stay out all night. And I think it's like in LA, people wake up at 7 o'clock and are in bed at 10. You know, so it's like almost a reversal of
in that
time.
respect. How does that feel to you, though?
That's the only thing that sort of screws me up a little bit when I come to LA, because I am a night person. I do like the nightlife. So when I come here, I sort of sometimes feel like, you know, I call somebody up and say, oh, well, let's meet for dinner at like 10, and they're like, 10? It's like so late for dinner. You know, we've been up since 7 o'clock in the morning. We had breakfast meetings, and it's like, breakfast meeting? You know, so there is a strange, there is that time that like sort of, that sets us apart.
Yeah, that window is a little bit different. Well, we don't want you to go to Europe. We want you to stay in the United States.
I like America. I like being in LA and New York. And a lot of Europeans, there are a lot of Europeans who have moved here, you know, it's working the other way now as well.
Maybe you'll open a studio here, and if you do, we'll be over there to watch you design.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks.
Marc Jacobs is so much fun. I could just talk to him forever. But we had to go on. We had breakfast later that same morning at the office of the cultural minister at the French consulate to learn some facts about the Musée du Louvre in Paris. Encyclopedia Britannica, the educational division, has put out a series of videos. We met Pierre Corral from the Louvre and Serge Lelou, the filmmaker. They gave us this clip, which we thought you should see, because it's a sample of the Louvre programs.
Hello, my name is Nicholas. I directed this film. I don't speak English very well, but I want you to know that this is a very special documentary. It's the first time a great museum has allowed movie cameras behind the scenes to film the secret life of a museum that the public never sees. A gigantic painting by Charles Lebrun is rolled up around this cylinder. It measures almost 80 square meters, about 860 square feet, the size of my apartment. This painting was buried for half a century in the reserves of the museum. Those who will hang this painting have never laid eyes on it. We will discover it with them. Pas de pli surtout, hein. It took 18 months for Veronese to paint this famous work, The Marriage at Cana. And it will take 2 whole years for the museum's restorers to clean it and obtain its original colors. Meanwhile, getting it down is no small task. This is the largest painting in the Louvre. Do you know why this man keeps putting his paintbrush in his hair? I'll tell you. He's charging it with static electricity so that he can easily pick up the tiny particles of gold leaf that he patiently applies to the frame. Any minute now, the museum will open its doors, the public will enter, and I'll have to say goodbye. In the 6 months of shooting this film, my team and I covered several hundred miles of corridors on foot. We stored up on film 40 hours of the Louvre secrets.
A park on the edge of a river. On the water surface, several small boats. On the grass under the trees or on the river banks, numerous people and animals. The canvas measures 2.1 by 3.1 meters. The people in the foreground are normal sized. Seurat was 20 years old when he attended the 4th Impressionist exhibition. He left the École des Beaux-Arts and, after completing his military service, rented a studio at 16 Rue de Chabrol in Paris. Most of his early work consisted of sketches of open-air scenes. He was influenced by Delacroix, Puvis de Chavannes, Renoir, Millet, and the painters of the Barbizon school. Seurat must have first composed his canvas using the same technique he used for the baignade. The Grande Jatte is formed by one large piece of linen coated with a layer of grayish-white. This thin preparation on a fairly heavy weave produces a grainy surface that contributes to the overall effect of the painting. By the spring of 1885, the canvas was ready, but the second Salon of Independent Artists was canceled. Seurat spent the summer at Grand Camp in Normandy and for the first time put into practice his theories on pointillism. In the baignade, a young boy standing in the water shouts to the inaccessible opposite shore. In the Grande Jatte, the young painter has passed to the other shore. He has crossed the symbolic river. But the island at which he has docked is not a Cythera, not even an impressionist Eden, scarcely a suburban Arcadia. Only a vast stage where he discovers, in the dustiness of the divided sunlight, the vague menace of the social comedy into which he, in turn, is going to have to enter.
I just love those videos. I watched them over and over, and I went to the County Museum and saw the whole tape on the Louvre, and they're just fascinating. And I'm so happy that I was able to share them with you and to be here at Joan Quinn, etc., and to have you join me. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.